All right. Hello, Red Earth team. How is everybody today? Welcome to another one of our Tuesday conference calls. For those who have not engaged fully yet, my name is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development, and we are in a partnership with Red Earth to help build a culture of excellence and innovation among its team members, both in the local office here in Wilmington and elsewhere. So this is a service that Red Earth provides to everyone who's a part of the organization. And I just love jumping on with you guys each and every week to provide some inspiration, some encouragement, and some teaching, hopefully, on how we can begin to invite a more holistic perspective into our lives and into our businesses that we can sustain a level of excellence. Because if we don't have a holistic approach, what happens is we start to let water into the boat, if you will, and next thing you know, we're sinking and we're having to inflate the life raft. And so that's kind of the purpose of this. And today I wanted to kind of start off and just tell you guys a kind of a story, a bit of my past, something that was a big kind of goal for me that happened, kind of how it happened, and maybe what I've learned in the process. And so I hope there's great application here for you guys as you navigate your own lives and your own businesses and your own goals and your own strategies. And so I just wanted to share this. A number of years ago, I was an insurance agent. I was selling insurance as a captive insurance agent for Farm Bureau Insurance here in North Carolina. And I was very successful in the organization. I had, finished in the top of the company across the state. And yet I felt this kind of thing in me that was not completely fulfilled. I still knew that there was more on the table for me. There were other dreams and desires that I had. And so I began navigating this tension in my life that was a call to speak, and that was something that I always wrestled with. It's like, why would I want to speak, but I couldn't deny it. I don't know for you if it's art, or if it's making movies, or if it's doing music, or if it's building things with your hands, or if it's real estate sales, if whatever it is. I mean, you have that thing in you that you just burn and desire to do, and that was for me. That was this idea of speaking. And so I ended up writing my book, and I've sent you guys my book. And one of the things that I had as a goal in that speaking arena was a TEDx talk. As a business person, we had heard all the great TED Talks and these little powerful, punchy, 15-minute talks. I wanted to give a TED Talk. It was a goal of mine. And I had submitted an application to speak at 3 different TED events, and I was rejected at every single one of them. And I was discouraged, and I was like, man, this is just frustrating because I know I have this desire to speak. I'm doing it corporately and locally, and people are telling me that it's good, but I submit the application and I get rejected. I guess it would be like the basketball player who's playing in the pickup game, and he plays in his backyard, and he's got his jump shot down, and he's going, but then he goes to the pickup game and nobody picks him up, and he feels kind of left out and rejected. And then he goes home and, he practices again. And that's kind of the season that I was in. But it just wasn't time. And what actually really happened, it was really cool, is another speaker friend of mine, a guy named Dave Rendell. This dude is 6'6" and he wears pink everywhere. And his book is called The Freak Factor. That which makes you weird is what makes you wonderful. And I love his message of authenticity. Dave's a great dude. He had asked me to cover for him one night, a Wednesday night, a weeknight in a small town in central North Carolina, and it didn't pay. And I was like, dude, this is not what I'm in this for, right? I need to get paid if I'm going to go on a Wednesday night up here. But I did it for my buddy Dave. It went incredibly well. Dave ended up having to cancel another event that was a sizable event. It was actually at the time the largest single fee that I had ever received speaking. It was like $3,000 plus travel. They flew me to Boston. I met with the corporate team of a mortgage company, and we had a workshop day. It was fantastic. And Dave and I built a good relationship off of that because I chose to just do my thing regardless of, whether or not I was getting paid. And I sowed good seed, and that bore good fruit. So the first thing I want to remind you guys today is when it comes to being who you are and the things that you love to do them. Don't wait on somebody to give you approval. Don't wait on somebody to validate you. You have to do them and be faithful to sow the seeds, because that's what in the end will end up bearing fruit. So be courageous enough to step into things and to sow seeds that are in line with who you are. And that was the first thing. So a couple years went by, and Dave called me up and he said, "Hey, Matt, some friends of mine are organizing a TED event outside of Chicago, Illinois. I think you should submit an application because their theme is beyond boundaries. And your message of kind of a holistic pursuing that thing in your heart, that genius thing, I think it would be really good." So I crafted up this proposal and did a little FaceTime deal like this with the team, the panel, and I'm like having to give my talk into a panel of people from my office. It was very weird, but I did it, and they accepted me as one of their speakers for this TED event. So I had this really cool moment where I flew up to Chicago, and I got on a train in Chicago, and I rode this train out to this site where they were having this TED event. It was a small high school. They had reconverted or converted the kind of the auditorium in the high school for the stage, and of course it had all the TEDx stuff on the stage behind you. It was kind of this moment where it was like, man, I can't believe this is actually happening. This is the thing that I've always wanted to do. This is the dream on my heart. And that event itself was kind of the proof of concept of what I wanted to do. I had a dream to be a speaker and a goal to speak at TEDx. And so the talk I gave at TEDx was actually proven by the fact that this small town dude from North Carolina is on a stage outside of Chicago doing what it is that he loves to do. But here's the part that gets really interesting, and the part I want to focus on today. When you do a TEDx talk, it's kind of a feather in your cap in the speaking world, because TED carries with it a reputation. And so you could kind of go around and say, I'm a TEDx speaker or whatever, and folks wear that like a badge of honor. And that wasn't my heart, but it was also a good thing to help me get in the door maybe. Now, after I gave that talk, I remember telling my wife, like, I really think this might be it, babe. I think this might be the big break. Because you have to remember, I walked away from a significant six-figure insurance business to pursue full-time with our organization. And my part in that organization is being the speaker, is being kind of the front man. I get to be the Axl Rose, if you will, for our little Guns N' Roses show here, and maybe without the attitude, but nonetheless, that's kind of my role and my posture in the company. So it's important for me to be in front of people speaking. Well, when TEDx launches these videos, they're very professionally done, and they put them on their YouTube channel. And their YouTube channel has 24 million subscribers. 24 million subscribers. And here's the deal. I had these great expectations for this talk, that this talk was going to be my big break. It was going to be like every great musician or business, the big break that changed the course of everything for them. And that this was going to be the thing that caused my speaking career and our business, therefore, to take off. Well, that didn't happen. And today is actually the 1 year anniversary, or excuse me, yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of that event in McHenry, Illinois, the TEDx talk that I gave. And it's funny because a year later, that video on YouTube has 1,100 views, 28 of these guys, thumbs up, right? And then 2 thumbs down, And for a guy who lived his life seeking the opinions and approval of others to get 2 thumbs down, man, it hurts your ego, You're like, man, I poured my heart out on that stage, and you guys are giving me the poo-poo thumb, 2 thumbs down. But nonetheless, what I believe the Lord is teaching me is a couple of things, and that's what I want to share with you guys today. Number one, the key lesson that He has taught me through this is you cannot allow other people to validate who you are and what it is that you are called to do. They don't get the opportunity to validate you as a person. Now, that doesn't mean you get to go do what you want to do and you can kind of, say, forget the world, I'm just going to be me. You have to live with a level of compassion and understanding and in relationship with other people. And you have to be willing to hear feedback from people that you know and trust. But you cannot place your expectations on people to accomplish things in your life that I believe only God can accomplish. And so you have to be faithful to do what it is that you feel called to do. And you've got to be courageous enough to step into that. And you have to let the approval of people fall by the wayside. You see, that's very challenging. And relating that specifically to you guys' business and in real estate, if you make the calls, if you show the property just like you were supposed to show the property, if you cross all your T's, dot all your I's, and have the most perfect presentation you can have, and the person still doesn't buy, then you feel defeated, you feel deflated, and you feel discouraged. And the reality is you were excellent in that moment, and you have to let go of the outcome of how people respond to it. Once you put the expectation on the person to validate you and the job you've done and those types of things, you give them the authority in your life. I remember when I was selling real estate in Columbia, outside of Columbia, South Carolina. It was a small project outside of Columbia in a city called Blythewood, and it was kind of a revamped country club. They had golf courses in play, some real estate. There was extra real estate. We had come in as an organization and bought the remaining real estate. We were selling it off. And I remember that there are so many times I took people on tours of the community, and they didn't buy, and they didn't buy, and they didn't buy, and they didn't buy, and they didn't buy. I mean, it was just a tough time because we were kind of the redheaded stepchild, if you will. We weren't in the throes of the Florida market. We were in South Carolina, so we were a bit different, and we kind of felt it. But the reality is that there was one day when this woman walked in, and very unassuming lady, and it was like 4:45 on a Friday, and I did not want to do it, but I said, you know what, I'm going to treat this like it is the best client that I've ever had. And I just remember doing the entire front end and just did everything to a T. And that day she didn't buy, and I was a little discouraged, but I kind of called back from her on Monday, and she said, I almost pulled the trigger on Friday when I was there. She said, but my husband and I have talked over the weekend, and we want to buy this lot, and we want to build this custom home. And at the time, it was the largest single custom built project in the community. I think it was a total of about 1.1 million. This woman owned a law firm in her home state, which was Ohio or something like that. And, she was very well to do. And it was just a beautiful reminder that we have to be excellent and deliver and step into who we are and let go of the expectations of how people respond to it. The second piece of this is I remember when I was in McHenry, Illinois. It was really cool because I got to take a train from the city center of Chicago, and I was riding the train like an old school train, and I'm riding the train like an hour outside into the suburbs. And I kind of had this picture of like a traveling salesman or a traveling preacher, who's on the train with his bag and he's going out to do his thing. And it was just awesome because it gave me about an hour to reflect on, what I had learned in the process that had taken me to this place and all that. Well, when I get done speaking, I had to get an Uber to get me back to the train station. And I remember getting in the car with this gentleman in Illinois, and he started talking to me about where you been, what have you been up to today? And I told him about my talk and the TEDx thing, and we just had an immediate instant connection, and our conversation immediately went to the place of faith. And this guy was struggling in his life. He was in a broken relationship, and he was just having a really difficult time. And I remember as we got to the train station, I looked at this guy in Illinois, and I said, hey, man, would it be okay if I prayed for you right now in the car? And he looked at me like wide-eyed, and he goes, dude, I don't know that anybody's ever asked me to pray with me. And I said, well, I'd be honored to right now. And we sat there in his car, and we had a great prayer, and I believe that he left encouraged, and I certainly left encouraged. And I said, what if it would be just like God to take me to McHenry, Illinois, thinking I'm giving the TED Talk, thinking this is about me going viral with my speaking career, but he took me there because this particular Uber driver needed ministering to. He needed connection with another human being. He needed to know that he mattered. He needed to know that his life was significant. He needed to know that he can't give up on who it is that he is. And I got to speak that truth into him, but that God was gracious enough that he actually let me give a TED Talk in the process. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? This is the magnitude and the bigness of God when we step into and understand that his ways are not our ways, and we have to yield to that and just let it kind of happen. Now, the final piece of this that I just want to encourage you guys with is we have to lower our expectations of people and raise them of the Lord. And this is a profound lesson, something we teach at UPrint in our one-to-one mentoring sessions is how to actually begin to do this. But when you start placing expectations on people to validate you, to approve of you, to give you your direction, when you place your hope in people, ultimately that's where the breakdown occurs. And you see, often we want to say, well, they let me down, they did this, and we blame them. But the truth is we had an expectation on that person that wasn't met. Maybe it was an ex, right? And we placed expectations on that ex spouse, and they hurt us and all that kind of stuff, and it went south and all that kind of stuff. It never frees the person from their wrongdoing. But we have to understand that we can't place our expectations on people. Maybe it was the client that didn't purchase, maybe it was the job situation that didn't work out. Maybe it's that tense relationship in the office. Whatever it might be, we have to recognize that we are bringing expectations to the table in our relationships and in our life. And the very dynamic of bringing an expectation is automatically what puts in an agenda and a structure that can be upset and not work out the way that we wanted it to. Again, I want to reiterate, it doesn't free other people up from being jerks. It doesn't free people up from just abusing people. It does not excuse their behavior. But what it does is it gives us, me and you, the freedom to choose how we navigate a relationship and a situation. If we can remove the expectations, then we are free. And yet raise the expectations of God, because he is a good father and he wants something positive for us. We don't need to walk into these relationships and circumstances and situations with a jaded, cynical mindset. So often when I was in the insurance business, I worked around people who just lived with this jaded, cynical mindset, and they called it realism. But the truth is, they had no joy, they had no energy, and they were an energy suck to people who wanted to have any type of hope or goodness. They were the Eeyores of the office, hello, poo. They were just downers. And it got me so frustrated, because I'm like a Tigger, right? I'm bouncing around. I'm trying to be joyful and positive and happy. But you've got to be mindful of these people that carry this heavy weight of cynicism and so forth, and you cannot put your expectations on them. You have to let go of how you expect them to act and respond, and know that you can control yourself. They aren't the ones that get to determine their approval of you, and certainly not your clients and these relationships that we're in. And so I tell all of this today to say, as I reflected on my 1-year anniversary of the TED Talk, I think that the Lord was reminding me that talk, although it had some great points for other people, was really for me. It was for me to truly break free from speaking and having an expectation of how the crowd was to respond. I have had to learn, and that talk was a very profound moment for me, where I stood up and I delivered the message that was on my heart, and I let go of the outcome. And it has given me an incredible amount of confidence to do stuff like this, that I can be on a conference call right now talking into a camera with nobody around, because I've done the hard work along and throughout my career of knowing how to deliver a message and let go of the fact that I don't know how people are responding. And it's okay. It doesn't alleviate me from bringing excellence and myself fully to the table. So that talk was a profound breakthrough in my life that helped me let go of the expectations of people, but gave me the courage and confidence just to stand up, to be who it is that I know that I am, and to pour that out into the lives and hearts of people, and let happen what may. Let the Lord deal with it as he may. I lower my expectations of people. I raise my expectations of him. I keep my joy, and I march forward, and I keep doing it. And ultimately, that TEDx talk gave me the courage and confidence to start something called Faith in Business. That is a regular monthly gathering here in Wilmington, where we get like-minded, like-hearted business people in the room. It started out with a few people. We've ended up averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 folks every time. And this kind of current situation has not got us meeting live, but it's those meetings that actually opened me up to even be with you guys today, because John heard about these different things that I was doing and said, hey, could you come and do this type of stuff in our organization? It opened up another situation with a gentleman, a friend in Oklahoma, and I do the same thing for his team. And who knows where it'll lead from here. So my point is, if you are courageous enough to step into who you are, lower your expectations of people, let go of the agenda, let go of how you expect them to respond, and how it's all going to work out, and just keep being you in the moment. That's what matters the most. And so today, the encouragement for you guys is to pause for a minute and see where you've been giving away power and authority in relationships because you've placed expectations on people that have ultimately gotten you discouraged, disappointed. And maybe that's this boulder that you're carrying around on your shoulder, and you're frustrated with all these relationships, the things that didn't work out. Toss that monkey aside and just be you. Go out every day and be excellent. The one thing that you can be the very best at is being you. Nobody else can do it. But that means you got to let go of all the monkeys. You got to let go of all the junk. You got to let go of all the expectations. You got to let go of what people say and how people respond, all that kind of stuff. And you just have to bring your very best to the table. So that is the encouragement for today. And that concludes today's conference call. As always, if anybody wants to connect one-to-one, you can do that. My personal cell phone number is 910-619-4644. Or you can connect on our website, uprint.life, youprint.life. We have a variety of one-to-one services, mentoring, coaching, etc. If anybody ever wants to step into that, let's have a call and see what that looks like. But I want you guys to know that, as I said in my TEDx talk, the genius that is inside of you can change the world. And the world can take everything from you, your money, your career, people you love, but it can never take who you were created to be. So that's the thing that's worth pursuing with everything you've got. So guys, thanks so much for today's call, and I certainly appreciate you. We'll talk again soon.